Welcome back to the Creator Age podcast.
Yeah.
Today we're going on a deep dive
Oh, okay.
into this idea of treating life like a game,
All right.
specifically like a massive
Yeah.
open world game where the possibilities are endless.
Wow. Okay.
Less about the daily grind
Right. Yeah.
and more about strategically leveling up in all areas of life.
Like that.
I'm curious to see where this takes us.
It's a fascinating concept.
Yeah.
Thinking of life as a game
Okay.
can really shift your perspective
Okay.
on how to navigate its complexities. It can unlock creativity
Right.
and even help you find more enjoyment in everyday things,
Oh, cool.
even the stuff we usually consider mundane.
Okay, so how does this whole game of life thing actually work? Because I'm imagining something like stepping into a vast digital world,
Okay.
like, say, World of Warcraft.
Well,
What are the rules?
yeah.
And how do we even begin to play?
You're actually closer than you think
Really?
with that analogy. Okay.
Like any good game.
Yeah.
Life has its own set of inherent systems and rules.
Okay.
But instead of blindly following the typical quest line to
Right.
success,
Right.
which can honestly lead to burnout,
Yeah, for sure.
we can choose to see those systems as a framework
Okay.
for forging our own unique paths.
So
Yeah.
instead of feeling stuck on a predetermined track, we have the freedom to choose our own character class
Right.
and develop our skills
Yeah.
based on what truly resonates with us.
Exactly.
Kind of like deciding if you want to be a powerful mage
Uh-huh.
or a stealthy rogue in a game.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And as you gain experience and level up in life,
Okay.
you naturally become more complex.
Right.
Just like a game character.
Uh-huh.
You're constantly learning,
Okay.
acquiring new skills,
Yeah.
and taking on bigger challenges.
Right.
It's all about embracing that continuous growth.
So it's not about reaching some kind of final destination. Uh-huh.
Or winning the game.
Right.
It's more about the journey of
Yeah.
constant evolution.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about expanding your capabilities
Okay.
and using those newfound skills
All right.
to navigate the world with more ease and confidence.
I see.
Imagine reaching the maximum level in a game.
Okay, yeah.
Suddenly, you have a whole new range of options and possibilities
Oh, wow.
open to you.
Wow.
It's empowering.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think it's easy to get overwhelmed
Sure.
by the sheer scale of it all.
Uh-huh.
If we're talking about life
Yeah.
as this massive open world game,
Right.
where do we even start?
Hmm.
How do we break down these huge long-term goals
Okay.
into smaller,
Yeah.
more manageable actions?
That's where the concept of setting goals comes in.
Okay.
It's about creating a clear hierarchy.
Right.
Starting with your big,
Yeah.
overarching vision for your life.
Uh-huh.
What do you ultimately want to achieve? Then break it down into smaller chunks.
Okay.
A 10-year plan,
Right.
yearly goals,
Right.
monthly goals,
Right.
and so on.
Okay.
Even having a clear direction
Yeah.
for your week
Uh-huh.
and prioritizing your daily tasks can make a huge difference.
So it's like creating a roadmap
Okay.
with specific quests and milestones
Yeah.
to guide us along the way.
Right.
Having it all written down
Uh-huh.
makes it feel less daunting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And by having a written plan,
Okay.
you can track your progress,
Right.
stay focused on your objectives,
Okay.
and even spot opportunities
Oh, wow.
that might have otherwise passed you by.
I like that.
It's like having a cheat code
The cheat code.
for spotting those hidden side quests in a game
Oh, cool.
that can lead to valuable rewards.
I like the cheat code for life.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. But beyond just setting goals,
Yeah.
are there any other rules to this game of life that we should be aware of? What keeps us on track and playing fair?
I'd say your values are your guiding principles in this game.
Right.
They act as the rules
Okay.
that shape your decisions and actions.
I see.
They determine what kind of player you are,
Mm-hmm.
what choices you make,
Okay.
and ultimately what kind of impact you have on the world around you.
So
Yeah.
if we think of it like a game,
Uh-huh.
our values are like the ethical code our character abides by.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah.
It's about aligning your actions with your core beliefs,
Right.
which ultimately leads to a more fulfilling and meaningful experience.
But even with a strong sense of values
Sure.
and clearly defined goals,
Huh.
we're still going to face challenges and setbacks
Yeah,
along the way.
of course.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like those unexpected boss battles
Mhm.
that pop up in games.
Right.
how do we deal with those curveballs when they inevitably come our way?
That's where mastering your frame or perspective becomes incredibly important.
Sure.
Just like in a game, you can choose how you react to challenges.
Right.
Instead of seeing them as insurmountable obstacles, try to view them as temporary setbacks.
Okay.
Minor road bumps on the path toward your ultimate goal.
So it's about having that mental resilience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like encountering a difficult puzzle in a game.
Okay.
You might get stuck for a while, but you don't give up entirely.
Right.
You try different approaches, experiment with different strategies, and eventually you figure it out.
Right.
It's that same problem-solving mindset that can help you overcome challenges in real life.
This is all starting to make a lot of sense.
Good, good.
Well, let's get down to the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
How do we actually start improving our skills and leveling up in this game of life? It can't just be about wishful thinking.
You're absolutely right. Just like mastering the controls in a game takes practice. Improving your skills in real life requires conscious effort and dedication.
Right.
And that applies to any skill you want to develop, whether it's communication, creativity, problem solving, or anything else that's relevant to your goals.
So it's about actively seeking out opportunities to practice.
Exactly.
Okay.
And a crucial part of that process is paying attention to feedback.
Right.
Just like in a game, you learn from your mistakes, adjust your strategies, and keep iterating until you master the skill.
Right.
And that feedback can come from both internal sources, like self-reflection, and external sources, like mentors, peers, or even constructive criticism from others.
Yeah. It's about being open to learning and growing from every experience.
Exactly.
Both positive and negative.
Right.
And that ties back to the idea of self-awareness.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And speaking of improvement, there's another fascinating concept that often comes up in the context of gaming that I think applies beautifully to life as well.
Oh, cool.
The idea of achieving a flow state.
Ah, yes, flow state.
Yeah.
That feeling of being totally in the zone.
Right.
Completely immersed in what you're doing and performing at your absolute best.
Right.
It's like everything else just fades away and you're completely locked in.
Exactly.
Tell me more about how that plays into this whole game of life concept.
Okay. Flow state is like finding that sweet spot where your skill level perfectly matches the challenge at hand. It's a delicate balance, though. If the task is too easy for you, boredom sets in and you lose interest. But if it's too difficult, anxiety takes over, and you might feel overwhelmed and discouraged.
So how do we find that sweet spot and tap into that flow state more consistently in our lives? It sounds almost magical, but I'm guessing it's more about intentional effort and understanding the mechanics of how it works.
You're exactly right. Achieving flow is a skill you can develop with practice. It's about pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone, but also recognizing when you need to step back and recharge. Remember, it's not about constantly pushing yourself to the limit. It's about finding that rhythm of challenge and mastery that keeps you engaged and energized.
So using the gaming analogy, it's kind of like choosing quests that are challenging enough to be exciting but not so difficult that you rage quit in frustration. It's about finding that perfect balance between pushing your limits and staying within your capabilities.
Exactly. And a great way to think about it is to visualize a graph. On one axis, you have the level of challenge, and on the other axis, you have your skill level. Flow happens when those two lines intersect. When your skills are low and the challenge is high, you're in the anxiety zone. When the challenge is low and your skills are high, you're in the boredom zone. But right in between those two extremes is where the magic of flow happens.
Okay, that visual really helps. So if we want to experience more flow in our lives, we need to be constantly evaluating our skill level and seeking out challenges that are just slightly beyond our current capabilities, pushing us to learn and grow. It's like leveling up in a game by taking on progressively more difficult quests and enemies.
That's a perfect way to put it. And here's where the concept of continuous learning becomes crucial. Flow isn't a static state, it's a dynamic process. As you master one skill, you need to be ready to embrace new challenges that will stretch you even further. It's a beautiful cycle of growth and mastery that can keep you engaged and fulfilled throughout your life.
This is reminding me of a time when I was learning a new skill, video editing. I was totally intimidated at first, but I started with small, manageable projects, like creating simple videos for my friends. As I got more comfortable with the software and techniques, I started taking on more complex projects. And before I knew it, I was editing videos for clients and feeling that incredible sense of flow.
That's a fantastic example of how the principles of flow can be applied in real life. And notice how your example highlights the importance of breaking down larger goals into smaller, more achievable steps. It's a classic strategy used in both gaming and life to overcome intimidation and build momentum.
It's like those epic multi-part quests in games, where you have to complete a series of smaller tasks and challenges before reaching the final boss battle. By breaking down the journey into smaller segments, it feels less overwhelming and more attainable.
Exactly, and each small victory along the way builds your confidence and motivates you to keep going. It's a powerful psychological loop that can help you achieve incredible things in any area of your life.
So we've talked about setting goals, developing skills, and finding flow. But there's another element that I think is crucial to this whole game of life concept, creating your own character. In video games, we spend hours customizing our character's appearance skills, backstories, essentially designing the player we want to be. I feel like that same level of intentionality can be applied to crafting our own lives.
That's a brilliant observation. And you're absolutely right. Instead of letting our lives be shaped by external forces, societal expectations, cultural norms, or the opinions of others, we have the power to consciously design the person we want to become.
So it's not about fitting into some predetermined mold, but rather about embracing our individuality and choosing the values, goals, and skills that align with our unique vision for ourselves.
Exactly. And that level of self-awareness and intentionality is what allows us to create a life that feels authentic and meaningful.
But how do we actually go about creating our character in this game of life? What are the tools and strategies we can use to shape our own destinies?
There are two key elements to character creation in the game of life: self-education and self-reflection.
Self-education seems pretty straightforward. It's about actively seeking out knowledge, information, and skills that align with our goals and values, right?
Exactly. And we're incredibly fortunate to live in an era where learning is more accessible than ever before. We have a wealth of resources at our fingertips: books, online courses, podcasts, communities. The world is literally our classroom. It's up to us to curate our own learning experience and actively pursue the knowledge that will help us level up in life.
But knowledge without application is practically useless, right? That's where self-reflection comes in.
Absolutely. Regular self-reflection is like taking a time out from the game to analyze your gameplay, identify your strengths and weaknesses, and strategize your next move. It's about taking the time to process your experiences, both positive and negative, and extract valuable lessons that you can apply moving forward.
It's like reviewing your game footage after a match to see what worked, what didn't, and how you can improve your strategy next time. It's an essential part of the learning process, both in games and in life.
And one of the most valuable aspects of self-reflection is the ability to identify and challenge our own limiting beliefs and assumptions. We all have them, those negative thoughts and voices in our heads that tell us we're not good enough, smart enough, or worthy of success.
It's like encountering those mental roadblocks that can prevent us from progressing in a game, those moments where we doubt our abilities or feel stuck in a rut. But just like in a game, we can overcome those mental hurdles by reframing our thinking and choosing to believe in ourselves.
Exactly. And sometimes that involves seeking guidance from mentors, coaches, or even therapists who can help us see ourselves more clearly and identify the patterns that are holding us back.
So self-reflection isn't just about passively thinking about our experiences. It's about actively engaging with them, questioning our assumptions, and seeking feedback that can help us grow.
Precisely. And by combining self-education with self-reflection, we create a powerful cycle of continuous improvement that allows us to level up in all areas of our lives.
This is all making me think about the importance of being intentional about the information we consume, especially in today's world, where we're constantly bombarded with messages from all directions. We need to be discerning about the sources we trust and the narratives we choose to buy into.
That's a crucial point. In the game of life, you wouldn't just blindly follow any random quest giver you encounter, would you? You'd want to make sure the quest aligns with your values, your goals, and your overall strategy.
So it's about curating our own learning experience, choosing the books we read, the podcasts we listen to, the people we surround ourselves with, and even the social media accounts we follow.
Exactly. It's about being mindful of the influences that are shaping our thoughts, beliefs, and actions, and making conscious choices that support our growth and development.
But it's not enough to just passively consume information, right? We need to put what we learn into practice, experiment, take risks, and see what works.
Absolutely. Just like in a game, you can't master a skill by simply reading about it. You have to actually get in there and play. You have to experiment with different approaches, make mistakes, learn from your failures, and keep iterating until you find what works.
That's reminded me of the importance of breaking down our goals into smaller, actionable steps, like those daily quests and games that help us build momentum and make progress toward our larger objectives.
Exactly. And it's about consistently showing up, even when it's difficult or uncomfortable, just like you'd commit to logging in and completing your daily quests in a game, even if you don't feel like it.
It's that consistency and dedication that ultimately leads to mastery and success.
And remember, just like leveling up in a game takes time and effort, so too does building the life you want. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And the key is to find joy in the process, to embrace the challenges, and to celebrate every small victory along the way.
But how do we ensure that we're not just chasing external validation in this game of life? It's easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves to others, especially in today's hyper-connected world where we're constantly bombarded with images and stories of other people's successes.
That's a great question, and one that's particularly relevant in the creator age, where so much of our lives are played out online. It's easy to get caught up in the game of social comparison and start measuring our worth based on external metrics like likes, followers, and validation from others.
So how do we stay focused on our own game and avoid falling into that trap of seeking approval from others? How do we define our own version of success and find fulfillment on our own terms?
It all circles back to those core values we talked about earlier. When you have a strong sense of what truly matters to you, it becomes easier to filter out the noise and stay focused on your own path. It's like having a built-in compass that guides your decisions and actions regardless of what's happening around you.
So instead of chasing those fleeting external rewards like going viral or getting a ton of likes, it's about aligning our actions with our deepest values and finding satisfaction in the pursuit of our own unique goals.
Exactly. It's about playing the game for the love of the game itself, not for the applause of the audience. When you're driven by intrinsic motivation, by a genuine passion for what you're doing, the external validation becomes less important.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like the difference between playing a game to impress your friends and playing it because you genuinely enjoy the challenge and the process of mastery.
That's a great analogy. And when you shift your focus from external validation to internal fulfillment, you create a more sustainable and rewarding experience. You're no longer dependent on the opinions of others for your sense of worth.
So it's about defining our own version of success, setting our own goals and finding joy in the journey itself, rather than constantly seeking validation from the outside world.
Precisely. And that sense of self-reliance and autonomy is incredibly empowering. It allows you to take ownership of your life and create something that truly reflects who you are and what you value.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like I have a whole new framework for approaching life, less like a series of random events and more like a strategic game I can actively shape and influence.
I'm glad to hear that. And remember, like any good game, life is full of surprises, challenges, and unexpected twists and turns. But by applying these principles of game design, setting clear goals, mastering your skills, finding your flow, and playing by your own rules, you can navigate those challenges with more confidence and create a life that is both meaningful and deeply fulfilling.
So to all the creators out there listening, remember you have the power to design and play your life on your own terms. It's about embracing the journey, learning from your experiences and creating a game that you're excited to wake up and play every single day.
And remember, there's no one right way to play the game of life. It's all about finding what works for you, experimenting with different strategies, and enjoying the ride.
If you found this deep dive interesting, subscribe for more insights on how to thrive in the creator age.